Good evening, everybody. We just came out of executive session, so I need to make an announcement about that and then we'll get started. The time is now 7:04 p.m. and the executive session has been concluded. The participants in the executive session were Mayor Holly Rogan, Mayor Pro Tem Jocelyn Farrell, Trustee Ted Elson, Trustee Paula Williams, Trustee Glenn Delman, Trustee Greg Edding, Utilities Director Aaron Kaplan, Attorney Brandon Dittman, Administrator Victoria Simonson, Town Clerk Dolores Vasquez, and Finance Director Cassie Eystone. For the record, if any person who participated in the executive session believes that any substantial discussion of any matters not included in the motion to go into executive session occurred during the executive session, or that any improper action occurred during the executive session in violation of the open meetings law, I ask that you state your concerns for the record. Okay. So we've done our roll call and pledge of allegiance already, so I'm going to read the land acknowledgement. We must acknowledge with respect as non-native people that the land on which we stand, live, and learn is the traditional territory of the Ute, Cheyenne, and Arapaho peoples. We also recognize the 48 contemporary tribal nations that are historically tied to the lands that make up the state of Colorado. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Anything anyone would like to amend? Okay, I'll call for the vote.
That motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. We'll take a reflective moment of silence. Thank you, everyone. Okay, now is the time for audience business. We've got a lot of folks in the room, which is great. Would anybody like to address the board? Yeah, come on up. If you wouldn't mind, can you tell us your name and your address?
I am Emerson Sturgis, and my address is 217 Hawthorne.
Great. What would you like to say?
It is great that the Lions Flyer bus comes to Lions. People take the bus to school and work, saving them money and reducing emissions. I am 13 years old, so I can't drive, but I can take the bus. Also, there are families in Lions that don't have a car. I have taken the Lions Flyer bus several times. At one point, when I was going to school in Boulder, I took the Lions Flyer bus to get to school. I have also taken it to get to Denver. It would be great if the Lions Flyer bus ran on the weekend. I like to go to Elitch's, the Denver Art Museum, and skiing at Eldora. I like to do these things on the weekends because that is when I'm off of school. However, I can't do these things on the weekends because there isn't a bus to Boulder. When I go to Denver, I take the Lions Flyer bus and then transfer to the Flatiron Flyer. To get to Eldora, I could take the Lions Flyer bus to Boulder and then transfer to the ND. It would also be great if the Lions Flyer bus made more trips. If you ride the bus to Boulder, you can't ride it back to Lions for several hours. If there were trips throughout the day, you could ride the bus to Boulder, do something for just a few hours, and then ride the bus back. This could mean more people would ride the bus. Also, students usually get off school at 3 to 4 p.m. This means that if they go to school in Boulder and take the bus home, they are stuck in Boulder for a long time after school. If there were an earlier trip in the afternoon, they could ride the bus back right after school. Thank you to the mayor and to the town board. If we are wanting to move away from being dependent on cars, we must consider public transportation here in Lawrence.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I will tell you that the folks who pay for the Lions flyer is Boulder County. And so we will make sure that Boulder County sees a recording of what you just said. And hopefully they can make some changes. So thank you very much. Okay, so we have, so we have 2 public hearings tonight. And so we'll be taking testimony on those matters during those sections of the agenda. So if you'd like to address the board about anything other than those 2 public hearings, please come on up. Okay, what about, I don't see anybody online. What do you think? Did you sign up, Gil? No?
No, I thought that was just a sign-in sheet.
Oh. Is there anyone else on this? No, thank you. Okay.
We'll move on to the Boulder County Sheriff's report. Is Sergeant Sears here?
He is not here. He's taking some time off this week, so there is nothing significant to report. We did have a couple of minor incidents in the park over the long weekend, but nothing significant. And uneventful from a law enforcement perspective pride event. So we're very thankful for that as well. That's all I have.
Okay.
Oh, we do want to note, if you haven't had an opportunity to go look at their new sign, the Boulder County Sheriff's Office now has a sign. It's been very confusing to people about where their new office is. And just so everyone can take an extra look at it, the badge that's on the front of their sign is from the same year that the depot was built.
Oh, wow.
So that was the Boulder County Sheriff's badge back in 1894 or 96. We had a replica made of it. And then Mr. Vasquez was very, very kind. He has a very small stash of rock that was still hand picked. That's how they used to do quarry stone until the early 1900s. He donated a column of the original, I don't know the right word, stone chipped by hand to place the badge on. And it's from about the same year as the building as well. So when you get a chance, take a look at it, and they're thrilled. Both them and the Historic Preservation offices are very pleased that we did a sign that was reflective of the era of that building.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. Okay. All right. Any questions about any of that? Okay. So we will move on to our next agenda item, which is the new tavern license. First, we have to adjourn as the Board of Trustees.
Do you want an administrator's report?
I'm so sorry.
No, that was just
Yeah.
sheriff, sorry.
Yeah.
Administrator's report, I'll do it real quickly. We did host a stop for Ride the Rockies. Because of the Highway 7 shutdown with the rock slide, everyone had to pivot very last minute, but it was still successful, and we were able to host them as a stop here in Lyons. As I said, pride events, a parade, a drag show, and bands and other speakers all were successful with their events last weekend. We did do a Juneteenth flag raising on June 16th. Next year, we'll try to get ahead of that a little bit and get more of the public involved. I do want to just address the electric power outage that we had last Tuesday. It was a longer outage than most of us are used to. However, so I wanted to explain just a little bit that a pickup truck did lose control of his vehicle. It's my understanding he fell asleep while driving at about 60 miles an hour. And he hit one of our 3-phase power boxes along Highway 36 or 66 actually. And his vehicle was on top of the box. And so I I heard really good response that Lions Fire, Boulder County Sheriff and Public Works were there very quickly within minutes. However, because it's on the state highway, it has to be investigated by state patrol. So it took them nearly 40 minutes to get there. Then they have to do their investigation. And we needed to make sure that the truck, because it was on top of an electric box, wasn't hot. And so Aaron and Enline went out to our substation near Longmont to turn off the power, so no one was injured. And then it wasn't until the tow truck removed it after the investigation that we were even able to see what was damaged. So they very quickly, once they identified the damage, it was repaired very quickly actually, and got power back on. But I know there's been some questions about what could we do to make, prevent that from happening. It's my understanding that it wouldn't matter if it was concrete bollards. When a vehicle is traveling at 60 miles an hour, it's going to take those out. So it is a vulnerability of our system unless we have millions of dollars to do even further undergrounding. But, knowing that that's only happened once, I think, in the last 15 years is pretty good. So we want to encourage people again to always be prepared. We never know when an accident will happen. And if you have vulnerabilities in your business or your home, that you need to prepare for those. So we're sorry that it took longer than usual, but it was really out of our control, mostly with state patrol and trying to get this, make sure everybody was safe and no one got electrocuted and no one was hurt. So that's what's most important. Very exciting news. The paving and street projects are starting this week, today, tomorrow. So we're going to start seeing all sorts of work on Steamboat Valley Road, Vasquez Road, and Court, Eagle Valley Drive, Osprey Lane, Peregrine Lane, Falcon Lane, Welsh Drive, Welsh Court, and McConnell Drive in front of the high school. So exciting stuff always. And two other things. Curbside limb pickup has been scheduled for July 17th. This is following the limb drop off that we offered to folks in hopes that those who are able to will bring it to one site. It costs much less to do it that way. Now we'll do a pickup. There are some very specific guidelines to follow in regard to size and stacking and wear. So please visit the town website to get those details. The goats returned yesterday.
Yep.
So the goat mowers are up on Long's Peak Drive. The herd will be here until that area is, the vegetation has been eaten. They are very happy with all of this long, tall green grass that they're going to eat. And of course, for those who aren't familiar with that, we have them navigating the most difficult terrain we have in town, so that we don't have to use pesticides or other means. And then the tubing ban, I talked with Sheriff Johnson. He said the tubing ban will be in place until close to 450 CFS. And he cannot, I asked if we could be proactive and say the tubing ban will be lifted when it hits that amount. And he said, no, that is not an option. He wants to make sure that it is stabilized, below that 500 number and for several days before he puts that on. So in the meantime, people need the water. The water is still high enough you can't see the rocks under it.
Yeah.
And when someone tips in a tube, you are just at Mother Nature's mercy. So he's pretty adamant about that. So we are going to try to let people know that, but right now it's a little over 600. So my guess is we probably have another week. So you can enjoy the water by putting your feet in or whatever, but no tubing.
Looking
yet.
at it.
That's what I have for today.
Any questions?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so now Is there a motion to adjourn as the Board of Trustees and convene as the Lions Liquor Licensing Authority?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
And that motion passes unanimously.
You? So we don't do these often, so bear with us in terms of procedure, and Attorney Dittman, who's up there, will, I'm sure, guide me if I do something wrong here. So I call to order a public hearing of the Lions Liquor Licensing Authority. The authority shall consider the tavern liquor license application of Bamalu LLC, DBA Bamalu, to be located at 304 Main Street. The application submitted to the town clerk together with all supporting documents are hereby made part of the record. Any other documents presented to the authority during this hearing shall also be made part of the record if a copy is given to the town clerk. Was the notice properly posted and published for this matter?
It was.
The applicant may make a presentation to the authority concerning the requested liquor license application. After the applicant, other interested people will be provided an opportunity to address the authority. The applicant and any other person who speaks may ask questions of and cross-examine any other person who speaks at this hearing. Am I doing okay so far, Attorney Dittman? Okay,
I think so. Yeah,
With
you're doing
the-
great.
thanks. Would the applicant care to make a presentation? Come on up. Okay. If you'd like to just state your name and address for the record.
I'm Shauna Lee Strecker. I live at 19617 North St. Grant Drive in Lyons, Colorado. Thanks to Dolores, it's pointed out to me that this is my 5-year anniversary at standing at this podium. In front of you as well, for sure. Applying for a liquor license for Bella McCrumma, which I held for 3.5 years. So I put together something new that will hopefully open at 304 Main Street that we are applying for the tavern license for. We're not going to advertise it as a bar. As a matter of fact, if you even come in there for a drink, it's because you know that we have a liquor license. It won't be advertised as such. I would even consider it to be like an old school tavern speakeasy, because our main point of business is custom hats. So it's custom hats, and the brand is really to slow your roll and slow down, go kind of back to the handmade things and a slower pace. So in that, we'll have repurposed hats, we'll have heirloom hats, we'll have custom hats and everything around that brand. And so we decided that a lot of those people might want to have a whiskey, and it would kind of be silly to apply for something temporary. So we'll probably maybe have 8 drinks total, and we'll have some bar finger food, which then comes into my world, which is the Bella world. And that will then launch my other brand called Ranch House West, which is another butter that is really great for this brand. So that will be part of what is served as tavern food.
Are there any questions for the applicant?
Are you making the butter on site?
No.
You're just bringing it in and offering it?
Yeah, no, I mean, there's no commercial kitchen, there's nothing we're doing there, everything will be brought in from a commercial kitchen on site.
I had a question about the application, only on 14. And I don't necessarily want to read the entire thing, but the answer was a yes. And it says, if yes, identify the name of the business and list any current financial interest in said business, including any loans to. I just didn't see an answer to that. I don't know if that's,
14 days.
There are no interests and there are no loans.
that's on page 3 of 6. 14. I guess the question was, has a liquor or beer license ever been issued to the applicant?
And she said yes.
Right.
She had.
Right, but then it says, if yes, identify it, and it's not identified, so I didn't know if it
Because
was.
that's the second one I filled out.
Right, because you put it on the first one, yeah.
I
Okay.
did, I filled it out on the first one.
Yeah.
So is there any issue with that?
No issue, that's just, we can.
Clerical, okay,
Okay,
I just want to make sure, yeah. I read these things. Too closely.
no such thing, no such thing. Any other questions for the applicant? I don't have any, so I think Attorney Dittman now,
I think
the
we
public hearing is considered open.
open the public hearing unless there's any staff presentation.
Is there a staff presentation?
No, I put together the cover sheet. My apologies. I thought I had included the one email that I did receive in opposition, but I sent that to the board and then I did upload it this morning when I caught that error and let me know. But background checks were met, zoning is in compliance. I mean, I try to pretty much put it all in there, so.
Okay,
Am I privy to read the email or the opposition? I don't need to know what's from.
I uploaded it. I can certainly send it to you.
That'd be great.
it's public record.
Perfect.
Yeah, and the applicant will have the chance to rebuttal following public comment, if any, so.
So, so you can take a seat for now if you like. And I'll open the public hearing, and anybody who'd like to speak on this matter, come on up, state your name and address for the record, and would love to hear your comments.
Hi, I'm Misty Brackett. I live at 119 Eagle Canyon Circle. And I've had the privilege of living in Lyons for 25 years. So I've seen numerous people and businesses come and go. And I think we've been extremely blessed. Like there's something about this location that brings fabulous people. You know, I was thinking about this and I think of Craig Ferguson. I think of Monica McGuckin. I think of Crystal DeCoster. More recently, Aaron Iserman, and I certainly count Shauna among those people. You know, they provide us with, I mean, like we had the only butter store in the country, or, you know, like when I was thinking, and when I heard her describe what she was going to do, I thought, well, let's see, there's this kind of store in Lyons, Colorado, and then like maybe on the Lower East Side in New York, like, you know, I mean, we're just so lucky to have people like Shauna come and bring her magic, you know, and we have a number of people like that. And so it's my belief that we should do everything we can to support people like this who bring the magic and bring the flavor and wonderfulness to our town. And again, I'm sure she'll do good publicity and will draw people, I'm sure from Denver, but probably from all over the country, you know, to her business. So I am a strong supporter of really anything Sean wants to do, but of this business in particular, just because I think, you know, remember when we heard there was going to be a butter store and we all thought, yeah, good luck. But she made it work and made it work even going into a pandemic. So I would never, ever bet against her. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Who else would like to speak?
Good evening. My name is Charles Esterly, 119 Eagle Canyon Circle. If that sounds familiar. I live with Misty. I've been a resident here of Lyons for about 10 years now, and I've known Shauna for about 5 years. And she has already demonstrated that she can be a very successful businesswoman in this community. And I believe she managed her previous liquor license very well. I would encourage you to approve her application.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Who else would like to speak?
My name is Heath Burgess. I live at 100 Open Range Road in Lyons. I'm also here to support Shauna and her new endeavor. I think it's a beautiful idea, and since I've known her, she's been amazing, bringing so much positivity and creativity, and she has a great vision, you know, for what she wants to do and what she's already done. It's exciting, and I think it's another positive thing for the town, and being that she's already had the success, you know, with a different business. I think it's a win for everybody here. You know? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Would anyone else like to speak about the liquor license?
We read the one.
I could certainly read it in or for public record if you'd like.
It's short, so why don't you go ahead?
Okay, we did receive one email from Amber Burton dated Wednesday, June 14th, 2023. And it says, to whom it may concern, we are against the granting of the license to 304 Main Street New Tavern Liquor. It is too close to residential areas and the school. Thank you, Mark and Amber Burton, 633rd Avenue, Lyons, Colorado.
Thank you. And Attorney Dittman, just for the public's knowledge, what are the rules surrounding liquor licenses in schools?
I think it didn't in lines, we did away with ours.
I included that in the packet,
Yep.
the
Yep.
four past ordinance to eliminate the 500-foot distance requirement by the state.
Okay.
Yep.
Great.
Locally, you can change it, but as mentioned by the clerk, 500 feet, but we did away with ours in lines.
Okay. All right. Are there any questions for the applicant? I would entertain a motion.
Oh, I understand.
Yeah.
So I had one person actually just send me a message and wanted to know, or just wanted to express his concern because he's from the SEC South. And the fact that the name had Bama in it, he was a little concerned and wouldn't necessarily be surprised if it ever got, your sign got toilet papered or something. It was a total joke.
Here's color
I don't-
bands.
Yeah.
Oh, this is.
Yeah, now we can get-
It's a
yeah, it's
football.
football. Now I
It's
can guess who it
football.
is,
It's a football
too.
joke. It's a football
It's a
joke.
football joke, yeah.
Anyway.
Anything to do with Clemson?
Poor delivery.
Yeah,
yes.
Clemson.
People want to give me. I'm sure the person will be a patron, don't worry, it'll be fine.
Would you like to make a motion?
Yes, so I make a motion to pass. Thank you. I move to approve the tavern license application for Bamalu LLC, DBA Bamalu.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I second.
Is there any further discussion? Okay, I'll call for vote.
That motion passes unanimous.
Congratulations. I love-
I'll show up to Emerson's next speech to Boulder County.
No question about it. And maybe Emerson can get a deal on a hat.
I will send you there with your own friend.
Well, hey. Well, I think this is so exciting. I think it's going to be great for the whole community and I can't wait. Can't wait to see it open.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
You're
Thank
welcome.
all of you guys for showing up to support me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, this is as full as the chamber has been in quite a while. So kudos to you.
Thank you.
and your
I didn't even
supporters.
sing. It's pretty cool.
Meeting's not over.
She did sing. Didn't you sing at the last one when you applied for the butter bar? I think you did.
Oh, now I feel a little cheated.
Or maybe you read a story. There was something that you did that was quite unique.
Good story.
Okay. We'll move on then to ordinances and public hearings. Tonight we have second reading and public hearing of ordinance 1147. An ordinance of the town of Lyons, Colorado, amending sections 13-3-70 of the Lyons Municipal Code, removing the requirement to pay a monthly base charge for the use of the town's bulk water station. Good evening, everybody. Is there a staff report?
Yeah, hello, Mayor and trustees. So again, as we discussed in the first reading, we have our new electronic bulk water dispenser. And so during discussions on how we would handle that going forward, the ability to allow people to go there when town hall is not open, the ability to use credit cards in review of the fees themselves to attract more customers. The discussion with the UED was that we should look at adjusting our actual rate and removing the base fee for the bulk water. So this ordinance is to remove that from the municipal code.
Oh, shoot. I'm going to stop you for a second. I forgot to do something administratively
we're
very
still-
important,
We're
which
still a
is
liquor license.
Is there a motion to adjourn as the liquor licensing authority?
Oh, I'm so sorry.
So moved. Okay, is there a second? Thank you. We'll call for the vote. Thank you for catching that, Victoria.
Sure.
Okay, please continue, Director Kaplan. Sorry about that.
No, Carl,
Liquor, man. If you want to, for the record, do I need to redo that or? I was finished with what I had. So again, this was an ordinance as we discussed the first reading. That with the purchase of our new electronic bulk water dispenser and the ability to use credit cards and the desire to offer the services on off hours when town hall wasn't open, the ability for those coming through that wanted to use the credit card at the dispenser, discussions with the utility and engineering board, input from others who have used the system and do not currently use the system. It was recommended to remove the base fee that is charged and adjust the rate structure accordingly. And there will be a resolution further in the meeting to adjust the rate structure. This is to update the municipal code to remove the requirement that a base fee be charged, which is in the code.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Director Kaplan?
Just have a quick one. Is there a limit to how much a person can purchase in terms of bulk water? Does it cap it at a certain amount?
No,
No.
it's not a physical side.
Cool. Thanks.
Any other questions? Okay, well then I need to, open the public hearing. So I'll open the public hearing. Would anybody like to speak about ordinance 1147? Doesn't seem so. I don't see anybody online. So I will close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
I move to approve ordinance 1174 and second reading.
1147.
Whatever it is. I mean, it's down as 1174 stamp.
Oh, it is. Okay.
1147.
11. Thank you. Is there a second?
A second.
Is there any discussion? No, I think it's great that we're finally doing this. And I think it's going to make it a lot easier for the folks who live outside of town who no longer have to drive to hygiene, such as Trustee Elson. Okay, so I will call for the vote.
And that motion passes unanimously.
Yeah. Next, we have first reading of ordinance 1148. An ordinance of the town of Lyons, Colorado, amending chapter 11, article 4, section 20 of the Lyons Municipal Code concerning the hours of operation for town parks. Is there a staff report?
Yes, thank you. So you may recall at your April meeting that the park staff presented their parks and operations plan for the year. Prior to that, we had talked about changing the park hours, and the previous board actually had wanted staff to get that done, and it hasn't because of ordering signs and things. It's just now happening. So our current code allows our parks to be open from 5 a.m. to 10 p.m., which doesn't allow any time while it's still daylight for the final cleaning, trash removal, all of those things. As well as we have had some patrons who choose to stay past sunset and get a little more active. So this is a first reading to change the Lyons Municipal Code to have park hours be from dawn to dusk, so that it's more in line with the seasons as well, instead of set hours that, like in the winter, it's dark for 5 hours. What this means is the park trail, the main trails are still walkable. People can still walk through our parks. It's we close the amenities they open at dawn and close at dusk. So that this would be a first reading if you choose to adopt it, and we would schedule a public hearing and second reading at your next meeting to consider changing the park hours to dawn to dusk year round.
Is the bathroom in a minute? Would that be locked then at dusk?
At dusk, they get locked because that's when we see vandalism happen.
Yeah.
Other questions?
What defines dusk?
There's actually a dusk time. You can look at sunrise, sunset.
Yeah. there's
Every
1
hunting
hour
laws.
after civil twilight, according to the FAA. I know that. So
Twilight. Okay. I've had teenagers express to me that, while being at the park, then they're, playing or whatever and hanging out. And that they don't feel like there's a real place for them to be after hours. Or, I guess, per se. And so while I appreciate that perspective, I do know we've had a lot of vandalism. And I don't know if this would cut that down or not, but it really did pose a little bit of a question for me, for my kids and their friends, as to where do teens go in our town after dark to just hang out, and there really isn't a place. So that was something that I struggled with, and I just wanted to bring it up with this. Not that I'm against it, I just, yeah.
What kind of enforcement do you see? Would we issue
I think
tickets?
it just allows the park hosts and Denver Metro and our staff to be able to, 15 minutes before it's dark, to say, it's time to start packing up. We still have work to do after you guys leave, sort of thing. If there's ever, we've had some situations in Laverne Johnson, especially with volleyball, that they might be drinking. That they can get kind of rowdy after dark. So if it got to that point, we call non-emergency sheriff and ask them to stop by. But, in regard to where do teens hang out, I think that has been a question for decades. Where do teens hang out? But I do believe in our case, if we want to keep our parks graffiti free, it shouldn't be at parks. We need to, Sandstone Park's very open. They can sit there, people's backyards, hang out at different Taka parks.
So does Sandstone then count as one of our parks?
It is, but it's not one that's, there's really no amenities there if they want to sit at a picnic table and talk. I
Okay.
suppose if the sheriff wanted to come and say, you guys need to move along, technically he could.
Right.
But, that one has a lot more light from just cars and the area. But I don't want to send anyone over there and have vandalism to the new stage either. So, I guess that's a good question. I can try to bring an answer back for second reading.
Yeah, because I'm not 100% sure this would actually reduce vandalism.
Well, let's keep it to questions for now.
Yeah. it's
Well,
first
what I
reading.
was gonna ask is, how are we gonna measure that? I mean, what is our vandalism rate? And would we measure that in the future to say, okay, yeah, did this affect vandalism?
We certainly could. I mean,
Okay.
we could try to get a baseline from this year and last. I think again, during the COVID years, it was up. I don't know if that's due to COVID, or boredom, or what that's due to, but
Yeah.
I do think numbers have been up this last year or two.
Sure seems like it. Have we had dawn to dusk hours before in years past?
No, it's 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. and that's what has classified.
Okay, so this is so we're trying something new.
Well, the last seated board of, there wasn't a formal ordinance. They had directed staff to go dawn to dusk, but it's an ordinance, so it has to be done by the ordinance.
Got it. And that was under the COVID emergency, I think.
right, we can
Yeah.
waive regulations under COVID. That's the reason how we do it.
So now that doesn't exist, so no, okay,
Yeah,
got
but
it.
it's worked well over the last couple of years for from a park maintenance perspective.
Mhm.
But Park and Rec Commission is also recommended, just should go.
Okay. So any other questions? Okay, I'd entertain a motion.
I move to approve ordinance 1148, ordinance Town of Lyons, Colorado, amending chapter 11, article 4, section 4 of the Lyons Municipal Code concerning the hours of operation of town parks.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. And discussion.
No, I think it's a good idea. I think, like I said, it's something I feel like we're even doing, because my kids have been kicked out of the park. And when they get kicked out of the park, they all come to my house.
Yeah, good.
So that's where you're asking about it.
They're always in my basement. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So I think it's a good idea.
I'm not as enthusiastic about it. I've got a son that was driving into Longmont because there is a park that's open till 10 that has lights and they can play basketball. What I would be worried about is if we did come down and we did close it, they're going to take off to Longmont, and that's not what I want him to be doing. I'm also, now that we can, I'm also dubious that there's a correlation between when it's open and vandalism. So I'm not as enthusiastic about it. I think it's I think it's a safe place for kids, and I think we should keep it a safe place for kids up until when they're still running around town.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of, it was the skate park was the request, like, I'd love to be in the skate park and hang out. Once it's dark and I can't see anymore. But we could just keep talking or.
But it does, I think, increase liability for the town if kids are skate park, or they're skating in the dark. Man, that probably ups injury.
I think it's more if they sit then in the pavilion on the benches.
I know, but we can't mandate what they do there.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah.
I do have one last question, actually.
Go ahead.
Does this affect the ball fields at all in terms of games? Because, or do they tend to stop at dusk anyway? Because there's no lighting
They
there.
used to go later, but I think they're trying to schedule it now because we don't have lights.
Right.
So they need to be done by dusk. And when we did have lights on past, like, I don't even remember how late, the neighbors we'd get the calls about the lights, like at the basketball courts and the tennis courts. We would get concerns from those neighbors about not the dark sky and glaring into their rooms because everybody forgot to turn the lights off when they left. It's
Okay.
It's like everything we decide, you know, part of the community likes something. That's why we'd like to move this on to second reading, so you can have public hearing.
Well, I was all for it until I heard your comments, and now I agree with your comments. So, yeah, it seems there should be something for people to do, and I don't necessarily think that if parks were open, that the vandalism would occur when there are more people there. The vandalism is probably occurring when nobody's around. So I don't know if that would cut down on vandalism.
Trustee Williams?
I'm concerned for our park hosts. I think it makes it a lot easier for them to do their work. If we do. One of the best.
And I'm generally in favor of this. I'm very much in favor of moving it to a second reading, so at least we can get public input on it.
Yeah, so I would support going to a second reading. I really wish the student advisory committee was meeting.
They're on break.
We're on break.
Maybe Administrator Simonson, before second reading, can we get a little bit of data about the graffiti in the parks?
Yep, I'm sure try to get it, yes.
Okay, and okay, great. All right, so if there are no other comments, I'll call for the vote.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, everyone. All right, next up, we have the first reading of ordinance 1149, an ordinance of the town of Lyons, Colorado, approving the annexation of the Martin parcel.
Good evening, Mayor Rogan, Mayor Pro Tem Farrell. Rest members of the board, I'm gonna share my screen real quick. I'm gonna pull the concept map like up through my here's the concept map I'll have up on the screen. While I can briefly go through the history of the infamous Martin parcel. It was originally platted in 1909, and it was in the lot 1 and lot 2 of block 1 of the Meadowbrook Farms. And it was a very good property. Overall, it's a very healthy property. The soil is in good shape. It actually housed people jumping houses, as it still does right now. Unfortunately, the 2013 flood came and kind of ruined quite a bit around here. And unfortunately, FEMA and Boulder County stepped in. Well, not unfortunately, FEMA and Boulder County did step in. They did, pretty much, buy out the property from the Martins. And
That was voluntary.
voluntarily, yeah, it was, because their house, everything in there was destroyed. And it was, sold pretty much to Boulder County, and it was stayed in incorporated Boulder County. And with the intention of knowing that it's adjacent to the town of Lyons and discussions that took place that day in 2019, Boulder County granted, the parcel to the town of Lyons. With the intention of knowing we were gonna annex it, and it's been, the Dr. Bob plan from 2017 was, I know it's got a little dust on it, hasn't been used in a while, but it was still set up to keep it as a trail, park, and open space parcel. There is no intention of ever moving forward with any form of permanent structures. And right now it's being used as social trails. Probably the most amazing thing I've learned after being here for a little over a year now, a little hidden labyrinth. I thought that was in the town of Lyons, and it turned out that's part of this property.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really intriguing, but many residents use that property on a daily basis. And we've gotten feedback from the EAB. The Ecology Advisory Board felt is the best route. Keep it open space and parks and open space. Where we really don't have much of another option to do because it is deemed as a Dr. Bob and deemed restricted. So what we're asking is to annex this town into the town of Lyons, and our future use would be social trails, and with minor changes happening to us now. There has been some fire mitigation that has taken place. And on top of that, we are also, as you see here on the screen, there's the little kind of, well, the main access point comes from 69. And then when you pull into here, there's kind of, this is kind of the social trail that's kind of been dug in for the past few years. I don't want to give any exact plans on what we're gonna do with the property as far as the trails go. It will remain, like I've said, sorry, to keep repeating myself, parks and open space, but we do intend to probably make it a little more intensive with the trails as far as just like a loop around, nothing formalized. And we figured being right next to Bone Park and then just south of the botanical gardens, it's just the perfect fit. Now, I stand for any question.
Questions for planner Painter? Go ahead.
Is this ordinance, is there gonna be a separate ordinance for the zoning, or does this ordinance include both the annexation and the zoning?
That's a great question. Trustee Dillon. All right. Sorry.
Good, all good.
Yes, there will be a separate hearing. We'll be bringing the first hearing for the rezoning to the PCDC next week, or 2 weeks from now. And then we'll be bringing it back to the board. So it was supposed to be done simultaneously, but they did not have them and didn't have to. But this is just for the annexation.
This is just for the annexation. We'll be doing another one for zoning. Okay.
So trustee Edding, we have 60 days from second reading on this one to do the zoning, so.
We actually, in all transparency, we plan to do both together, but the posting requirements for that part are different.
Mhm.
And we need to have till July 5th meeting.
Okay, that's fine.
Some questions. I know at one point, it says, it's very clear, it says no structures. I know that PCDC had kind of kicked around an idea if there was ability to have a shed for mowers. Not at all. Okay. So I just wanted to clarify that. The other thing that I know, I was wondering, and from a comprehensive standpoint, there were times that there's an area in there that talks about urban forest. And really, this is kind of our urban forest within the town. Is there language that can perhaps be added to ensure that it really will state as such, like very clearly stating something along the lines of, other than there's no clear cutting of trees unless for fire mitigation, and that it would only ever be established with a simple social trail, that we are intentionally trying to protect our urban forest corridor, et cetera. I was wondering, can we be very distinct and definitive and intentional on that.
So the
Well, that
annex. Oh, go ahead, if you want to go ahead.
All I'm gonna say is I don't have the answer as far as adding the language directly to them. Well, from the ecology standpoint and the environmental standpoint, we would even want to cut down some of the trees due to the people jumping mouse as is. That is one of their natural habitats. And being parks and open space and being restricted, I want to say there is a possibility we can only cut down so much, but that's something I can come back at the secondary.
Yeah, I'd be really curious if there's anything, but from an illegal standpoint,
Yeah, from a legal perspective, that would not be appropriate for the annexation ordinance. You know, I will note that the zoning being parks and open space is already pretty limited as to what it can be. And the only
Okay.
legal instrument to, prevent future development would be, one through zoning as it will exist whenever it gets zoned. And then two, through a conservation easement, which is kind of a separate instrument. But I think you already have pretty good protection through the zoning that it can't really be used for a whole lot.
okay.
Other questions?
Yeah, can I ask?
Please.
Yeah, I've got two additional questions. Is there any additional cost that the town is gonna have to incur now that this is annexed into the town? Is there anything you can think of whatsoever?
It's ours to maintain. It would be ours. That is correct. And if we wanted to make any adjustments to the land, for example, trails and just getting a land use application through, we want to pay those fees from Boulder County. It can all be done internally.
Okay, so there would be a cost savings. Okay,
That's right.
all right. Is there any goodie that the county was doing to this land that we're gonna lose now? Any good thing that you can think of? Okay, sorry.
So I have a question, and that's about the access from County Road 69. So my understanding was that the property owners there didn't want people to access this parcel. So can you tell us kind of what's going on with that?
Absolutely. Yeah, so Mayor, we got the intention of trying to create a little buffer there along the south portion of the property to stop encouraging visitors and residents to cross over the other property. 69 will be our main fire access point for an emergency in the event if they have to get some ATVs in there, if there's a wildfire, and any sort of natural occurrence or emergency. The most access points will pretty much come from the north, the east, and into the social trails. We're going to try to divert people from coming from that way.
Okay, and so these neighbors, and I don't recall their names. Have we spoken to them about this? Do they understand what's happening? Are they supportive?
The Darcy's, yes. The
Okay.
Darcy's, Alice Darcy, who lives south below, just the property just south. She's annoyed by it and would love to see us fix it.
Annoyed by what exactly?
So on your map, if you can circle the little white area where they cross the Darcy property, see the current social trail, go down, right down further, that. Right there is where people using the social trail are crossing their property. You see that? So, Planner Kimmett, Planner Painter, we've all been in touch with Boulder County to say, because there is 40 feet of property line adjacent to 69 that we could utilize, move that social trail to the north a hair. But right now, that whole dark red area is covered in thick overbrush. Even though their Road 69 technically goes, to the river. So, we have reached out to them to see if they would consider removing that brush so that we could move the social trail onto our
good.
property.
Good.
So far, they have said no.
Who has said no?
Boulder County Maintenance. But we're not necessarily done. We're waiting to see what you guys are gonna do with this. We could maybe offer to do it ourselves. We could use this as something we want to talk about in our IGA. There's some other options here. But once we have that moved further north, I would love to see a corner fence around the Darcy property so that people can't go from here.
And maybe we could offer to put up some Town of Lyons no trespassing signs, like we did over at Riverbend.
Oh, onto their property.
Yeah,
I think, yeah.
if they're amenable to that.
We
Yeah.
will. It will be tricky. It's a floodway, so it can't have true fences.
Yeah,
It'll have to be a creative floodway fence, but
okay,
we can figure it out.
okay.
Maybe we put a couple big boulders right on the edge. so that-
There you go. Well, I heard there's some up on Highway 7. Aaron?
Just to add, and part of that was dealing with the fire mitigation, so working with Zach on that. And on the property owner, we wanted to try to get the fire mitigation done and
Mhm.
not bring up other things that could cause issues at that time, just because the fire department was working to use access in there. So we wanted to get that all done first before we started really pursuing the access to Boulder County.
Got it. Okay. Any other questions? Okay,
I just
Yeah,
think
go
the
ahead.
access to Boulder County is pretty important, for access to South St. Vrain Road as a trail.
Mhm.
And it's not good the way it is now. So I think whatever it takes for us to get the ability to clear that brush out and move that trail a little bit and formalize the trail is important.
so I would entertain a motion and then we can have discussion.
I move that the Board of Trustees recommends approval of the annexation of 109 County Road 69, finding that the application complies with the standards contained in lines with municipal code 15-1-120, 15-1-220, and 15-1-310 regarding the annexation of the 109 County Road 69.
Thank you very much. Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, and discussion.
It's good to hear that there's really, since we own the land, there's very little change here, except for the fact that we could actually have less fees and costs when doing stuff with the land over Boulder County. So in me, I don't think it's a big deal. I think it's just bookkeeping that needs to be done, but it does sound like there's an advantage to it.
I just wanted to say, I think it's very similar, but I think access to this is important from County Road 69. Good fences make good neighbors. And we can be a very good neighbor and still have a path that's a social path that's, not
Right.
going to hurt people.
I am such a rule follower. I actually would use it. But because it's obvious to me it's going onto their land, so I don't. And so it's not my life. I'd like to see us. fix.
Yeah. Yeah. Anybody else? Okay. Well, I'm glad we're finally doing this. Been talking about it for years, so
This is first reading.
I know.
Okay.
Okay.
Glad we did the first reading.
Glad we're halfway there. We are halfway there. Okay, I will call for the vote.
That motion passes unanimously.
You?
So we'll schedule a second reading and try to, maybe we can get a little further in the next couple of weeks with Boulder County or if the Darcy's would come in.
Yeah, please. Okay, next is consent agenda. Will you please read consent into the record, Clerk Vasquez?
Yes, item 1 is resolution 2023-38, a resolution of the town of Lyons, Colorado, approving a rate of $15 per 1,000 gallons for bulk water. Item 2 is resolution 2023-39, a resolution of the town of Lyons, Colorado, ratifying the decision of the Board of Trustees on June 5th, 2023, to require the dedication of 3 shares of Lake McIntosh water shares and accepting cash in lieu for the same for the Colorado Lookout LLC development. Item 3 is resolution 2023-40, resolution of the town of Lyons, Colorado, rescinding resolution 2023-36. Item 4 is resolution 2023-41, a resolution of the town of Lyons, Colorado, awarding a construction agreement to Colorado Lighting Incorporated for Main Street Lighting, project number 23-Main ST Lights-01. Item 5 are the June 5th, 2023 Board of Trustees meeting minutes, and item 6 are the June accounts payable.
Thank you very much. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So,
Is there a second?
Second.
Anything anyone would like to remove from consent this evening?
To remove item 2 from consent.
Anyone else?
I was gonna ask for two.
Anything, anybody? Okay. We will vote on consent with item 2 removed.
And that motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Trustee Eddie?
Yeah, so there's just some comments I'd like to make on two. First is I'd like to keep the conversation going because I think there's a lot of bigger issues here that we need to understand. I think we also need to understand that we're setting a precedent here. And there should be probably some guardrails on this precedent. I don't know how, we can't bind future boards. So with those thoughts, I'd like to actually talk to the UEB and have a discussion. I have it on their agenda item tomorrow about the idea of when do we sell cash in lieu versus as market versus what we originally paid for it. What are their thoughts on that? I'm completely for selling it at the original cost for affordable housing, but I don't know if I would do that for economic development. And I'd love to know the UEB's point of view on that. I would like to also get the UEB's recommendation is, should we now go back and buy some more shares? If we do buy the shares, what are we buying them for? And what is the opportunity cost? Because I know we're locking up money when we do that. And I've never really understood what the opportunity costs were. The other thing that I'd really like to bring up to the UEB is it's up to the board to make a decision whether they use McIntosh or Big Thompson. But I'd like to get a better understanding of what's really the trade-off. I mean, why not just use McIntosh? Can somebody really tell me, is a Big Thompson better than a McIntosh? Then why is it, then it would be a no-brainer. But I'd love the UEB to put some skin into the game, understanding how much of our portfolio do we want to have McIntosh, as opposed to how much of our portfolio do we want to have CBT? Are there pros and cons going either direction? And then the other thing I'd like to do is discuss how we can go back with Longmont to the IGA and find other ways of getting water rights other than Big Thompson and McIntosh. Because I know Longmont gets them other ways other than those two right there. And so can we be included in that? And then the last thing is, if we do purchase more shares, is it possible, instead of going to the market and saying who has something to sell, to do it the opposite and say, we're willing to buy 5 shares at 12,000. I really suggest doing that, because I did see that email where someone said, well, the ditch companies said this, which is total hearsay. And of course, what angle they're coming from. So I just don't think, I think it's a much better way to try to control the market by offering a price instead of asking them what they think the price should be. Anyway, so I think there's a lot more to it. I'd like to bring these all up to the UEB and continue the discussion, make sure it's on the agenda. I'll stop here.
Would you like, after you have the discussion with the UEB, would you like to make a workshop out of this with the UEB so that we can talk about it?
If you guys are willing to talk more about water shares.
Yeah, it's so important. Yeah.
I think it's important. I really think the big thing is we need more. Okay, I'm just repeating myself.
Okay, no, we'll do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
My favorite CPR show at this point is the podcast Parch with Michael and Elizabeth Science about water rights. I'm becoming obsessed with it. So yeah, my concerns are cash in lieu for a figure that, is this a real figure? The 31.5? And when it's affordable housing, do we really want to do that when we purchased it for less than that? And what is the agreement with Longmont in terms of them being happy for us to for shares for affordable housing and not for other types of housing? It's just, all of that is not clear to me. I really would like to know where the UEB is on this, where we have options for things other than CBT as well. I mean, it just, the whole notion that we're getting
water from the other side of the divide just always bothers me, but I don't know really what we can do about that. But yeah, all of those things. My biggest concern here is what does it do to the builder's ability to move ahead if we're holding this off? What's the situation there?
Well, I would like to remind the board that this was something that we agreed on a number of times.
Yeah.
This price point. So I think that we absolutely need to have further discussions about what are our guidelines and guardrails around cash in lieu and water shares in general. But for this particular consent agenda item, my feeling is that we stick to our word and then we move forward very consciously so that when situations like this arise again, we have some guidelines to follow.
One comment on what trustee Edding said with regards to the resolution was to ask the UEB about whether we should buy water shares with this money. So that's in the resolution. Correct, Attorney Dittman? That resolution does say we will use that to buy. So that would be one you might want to amend. Or
Thank
I don't
you.
know if you're making an amendment to that for that. And two, just real quick, you guys always say UEB. I don't know if you're trying to include staff. You can ask the UEB. And I don't mean to be arrogant, but I probably have the water rights knowledge there over the rest of the UEB.
Oh, yeah, I
So
understand
you
that.
may
Yeah.
include staff with that.
Oh, for sure. I
And
always assume.
just to confirm,
yeah,
what
I
Director,
thought that went with us.
Oh.
Go ahead.
yeah,
Attorney
just to
Dittman.
confirm what Director Capel is saying, Section 4 does require the town to purchase as many shares as it can with the money. So we have to amend that if that's not the case, if the board just wants.
So if we amended, if we struck that paragraph, then the money would go into the water fund and we can decide at a future date what the money would be used for. Sure.
That would be my staff recommendation.
Okay. Trying to get to that particular resolution. Okay, it's on page 152 of the packet. Okay, any further discussion on this resolution?
Can you show me, can you tell us where are we making that amendment in the
If you
whereas?
No, go a little bit further. It would
Section.
be
It's
section.
in the
4.
ordering clauses, so it's Section 4 of the ordering clauses.
Thank you, I see it now.
And what page is that again?
That's page 153 of the packet.
I show 151, so close to that.
It's on the signature page of the resolution.
So what are we doing here? Are we trying to pull this or pull Section 4?
Well,
It's up to you.
we need a motion in a second first, and then somebody would make an amendment.
Okay.
If your discussion about why it was built is done.
Yeah, my discussion on why it was pulled is done. Yeah, and it wasn't any intent to stop this or stop the development. It was to continue on the discussion and not let this
Okay.
just kind of go away.
Right, okay. Well, in that case, I would call for a motion to approve resolution 2023-39.
I move to approve resolution 2023-39. Want me to read it all? A resolution of the town of Lyons, Colorado, ratifying the Board of Trustees' decision to allow the use of Lake McIntosh water shares for 317 Evans.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I second that.
Right, and is there an amendment?
Trying to word that amendment and then somebody else got the language, or we could do that faster.
I would do, I propose an amendment to remove Section 4 of the ordering clauses.
I propose an amendment to remove section 4 of the ordering clause.
Is there a second?
I second.
Is there any discussion?
I'd like to understand and hear again why.
I will. I'm just doing a lot more reading on the whole thing of water shares and feel like it's not fair at this point. I know to our entire processes, but I want to go back to the beginning and understand more better than I have before. I realize my personal understanding has been inadequate. And so to me, if we are putting it back in and it's also the recommendation of staff that we just put it back in and not specifically focus on Lake Macintosh shares, that gives us a little bit of an opportunity to take a look at what is the best option available for us here. Is there something else that Longmont got that we don't know about that we can go with? So I'm agreeing that we definitely want to use this to purchase additional water shares, no question about that. But just do we want to limit ourselves to Lake Macintosh? That's the only reason I would want that handled right now.
I understand. Thank you for that. Okay.
Yeah, I would say, I agree that at some point we should be buying water rights of somehow for affordable housing. And so there's no intention of like not doing it. It's just
Exactly.
getting a better understanding. I'd also like to really pose the question, what is the opportunity cost? Because this money does get locked up for a couple of years in a non-liquid way. So
So we have a motion and a second on the amendment. Any other discussion on the amendment? Okay, so we'll vote on the amendment first.
And that motion passes unanimously.
Are there any other amendments anyone would like to make? Okay, then we will vote on the resolution as amended.
And that motion passes unanimously.
Yep.
Thank you. That's really thoughtful. And I appreciate that.
Yep. Okay, so for boards and commissions, we have Administrator Simonson.
no. Okay, we voted on the rest of the consent agenda?
We did.
Okay, we did. Okay, sorry.
Yep.
Okay, all right.
I was remiss in mentioning that tomorrow night we'll be doing a stage rededication at Sandstone Park. So at 6:30 tomorrow evening, we will be doing a rededication of the stage as the Raul Vasquez stage and express our appreciation to him for the multitude of stone projects he has done for the town of Lyons pro bono. So if you are available tomorrow, he is very shy in public settings, but I asked him please to come. I'm not guaranteed he'll be there, but we're going to do the new reveal on the new expanded stage that I think all our musicians and dancers and other folks will really appreciate. So
It's super great.
6:30
6:30.
sharp, and
So,
it'll take a few minutes.
First concert, yeah. It'll take a few minutes because I'm going to talk, so.
Okay, but it looks really good. It does.
That
Yeah, it
looks
looks
great.
really good.
And it appears to be more accessible than it used to be for sure.
Yeah,
So, and then lastly, we don't have an HSAC update because trustee Daddy left a very thorough human services report in the packets. So
I don't think I saw that.
really, it's very detailed.
The email, I think she emailed it to the board.
Recently?
Yeah.
I don't think I know.
I don't.
Oh,
I
gosh,
did not
okay,
get it.
well, we'll send that. That's an update on housing and some other things. You want to announce about housing?
We issued the first 4 certificates of occupancy.
Today, so they made the thing.
that's really great news. That is really great news. Does trustee Dati know that? Did you
No.
tell her?
We don't know. She's traveling. so-
I know she's traveling, but I'm sure she's
Yeah.
checking her email. And so maybe we can let her
I
know
think
because
she's still in the year.
I think so.
I
too.
bet she has Wi-Fi. I bet she's watching on YouTube. So,
Could be.
let's let her know as soon as we can.
We certainly will, but that happened late this afternoon. Still lots of work to do in coordination on landscaping and some other small things, but the good news is they can plan to move folks in.
Well, we appreciate your hard work. I
Yeah.
know that wasn't easy to get there.
Yeah. Has Paul Cap decided when he wants to do the ribbon cutting?
He's asking us, that we wanted to get through these first 4 first to see if we're staying on our timeline.
Yeah,
We'll probably plan it now. If possible, we might do it over the flood commemoration
oh, great, okay,
and, do a ribbon cutting so folks are actually living there and maybe there's still a unit open that people can tour.
okay,
So that's what we're looking at. The site is way too, is still a very restricted construction.
yeah, it's kind of a
site, so-
mess, yeah, okay. Terrific, that's great news, thank you for sharing that.
We'll
Um,
make sure you get Trustee Daddy's update. It's very detailed.
Okay, so moving on to general business. We have resolution 2023-42, a resolution of the town of Lyons, Colorado, accepting the Honeywell settlement agreement. Attorney Dittman.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mayor Rogan. This is a resolution authorizing the mayor to approve a settlement agreement with Honeywell International, Valance, Tetra Tech, and FEI. These are all parties that the town of Lyons sued going all the way back to 2018. And really, the issues regarding this going back, beyond 10 years at this point in time regarding the town's wastewater treatment plant. What we're allowed to publicly state at this time, one, that this agreement is not final until signed by all parties. The parties have reached an agreement in principle, but it is not final at this point. But what it will do is it will resolve all the claims between the parties, including the counterclaims that Honeywell International has made against the town, which are over $500,000. And it will include a financial recovery for the town to help with some of the issues of the wastewater treatment plant.
Any questions for Attorney Dittman? I would entertain a motion.
Okay, I motion to approve resolution 2023-42. A resolution of the town of Lyons, Colorado, authorizing the mayor to execute a settlement agreement and release between the town of Lyons, Colorado, Honeywell International, Tetra Tech, JR, what was there? Valance, oh yeah, French version, and FEI engineers.
Is there a second?
I second that.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? All for the vote.
That motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you so much, Attorney Dittman, for all your incredibly hard work on this.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to hopefully put this closer to resolution.
Yep, terrific. Okay. Second item of general business is resolution 2023-43. A resolution of the town of Lyons, Colorado, approving the First Amendment to the development agreement with Lee Williams, 317 Evans. Staff report, please.
Yeah, so during the last board meeting, there was some discussion on whether or not look into the use tax and how it might be handled to give an offset to the use tax for the 317 Evans development. And so I'm working with Attorney Dittman and Finance Director Icestone. We did put together what could be presented for that. Again, you cannot specifically waive the use taxes, according to Attorney Dittman. The use taxes amounted to approximately $9,700 in revenue that you would be rebating or not receiving. $6,500 of that for the park fund, $6,500 of that about for the general fund and $3,200 for the park fund use taxes that those would go to.
And so the way that works is that we rebate the money through waiving other fees. We can't waive taxes, but we can basically, since money is fungible, we can just say we're not going to collect it at other places. And that's what was done for Summit as well.
Questions for staff?
Thank you for working on that, figuring that out, because I didn't know what we were going to be able to do last time around.
All right, if there are no questions for staff, I'd entertain a motion so we can have discussion.
I move to approve resolution 2023-43 and amendment to the development agreement with Colorado.
Thank you, trustee Williams. I think maybe Mayor Pro Tem had a question that I missed.
I don't,
Okay,
I think I'm okay.
okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Now discussion.
Okay. So I'm having a challenge. And I never thought of myself as a fiscally conservative person, but apparently I'm becoming one. So, I know this in the big scheme of funds, this is not a large amount of money, and I totally get that. But in the beginning of our packet, you know, our financials, I'm starting to feel a little anxious about our current financial stability in our own town. Yeah, we didn't do that. It's okay. I mean, it's in your admin report.
Under staff report, but Cassie wanted to give it tonight.
Oh,
But if she's still here, maybe we can do it at the end.
Okay.
sorry, Kathy.
So what I got from that report, and maybe you can back me up if I'm incorrect or correct, either way, that our sales tax have been down 3 out of 4 months this year so far to date, and that's $18,400. And I'm feeling from between the general fund and the parks fund. One of the slides that Cassie had in there showed basically if you take, you know, once you consider what is our 3-month reserves and where the fund balance, the enterprise fund balance is at that moment, what this dollar amount is really our piggy bank that we can actually work with. And when I looked at those numbers and I added it up together between parks and the general fund, we have about $628,000 to work with. And immediately I took that number and I thought, well, what projects do we have that we still have to budget for? And the very first one that came to my mind that we were a potential shortfall is the St. Frank Trail connection. So $1,000 to me right now is important. So I would really love to support this at this point, but I feel that we're not in a strong position. I mean, prices are going up for us as well, and we're not seeing the revenues coming in so far this year. And I do find that to be a big concern. So unfortunately, I'm not voting for this right now, but it's not because it's not in my heart. I'm just being really fiscally conservative.
I'll just make one informational comment because people may not know, and it was going to be part of my trustee report, but it seems like it fits here, and that is the Board of Boulder County Commissioners voted to get us the $600,000.
Oh, good. Well, that's good.
Yeah. So, and that vote happened last week. That last week. So if that.
So they'll be contributing $600,000 toward the St. Frank Trail.
Great.
We'll be bringing forward an IGA with them when it's ready.
Yep. Trustee Williams?
I'm also very fiscally conservative. I ran a nonprofit for 35 years. There were times though that I made exceptions and we'll figure this out in some other area. Often when it was working within the realm of social justice. In this case, I look at affordable housing and I look at the sacrifices that the developer here has made already. And I feel like, you know what? We have to find it somewhere else. I feel it's,
Personally, if I really believe that we should have affordable housing, I see something as generous, I think, as this is. I mean, you know, who pays your rent when they move you out of your space? And then make sure you're able to move back in. I mean, to me, it's, we can find it somewhere.
Yes.
Do you have a comment, Director Eystone?
I would also like to say, yes, our sales tax is down lower than last year. However, we do have other revenues that are making up that shortfall. Luckily, you know, interest rates are really high right now. So our Colo Trust account makes, you know, is making quite a bit more money than we projected. Additionally, we've already exceeded at least our year-to-date projections for use tax and building revenue. So those are things that are kind of helping offset that. And you know, I think we enter a revised 2023 with some good cushions that we absolutely didn't anticipate when we built the 2023 budget. And you know, I always am very fiscally conservative as well. So I never want to say let's scrape those to right at the reserves, but we do have cushions available this year that we didn't always have before.
Thank you. Other comments?
Yeah, I'd like to say that I completely understand being fiscally conservative. But I have to agree with Trustee Williams. It's like, when do you choose to be that? And I would much rather see a shorter, something taken away from the park than affordable housing. Anyway, yeah, that's what I do.
I completely agree.
Well, and Trustee Gentleman?
Thank you as well.
So, and I totally understand where you're coming from, and I really appreciate you bringing it up. I'd want to point out that were this development not happening at all, there would not be any use tax at all to make up for. You know what I mean? And I agree, we can find the money somewhere. You know, I think this is an issue of, you know, they like, what you hear is, if you want to know somebody's values, look at their budget, right? If you want to know a town's values, look at its budget. And so I think that falls in this category. So I'm going to vote for this. If there are no other comments, I will call for the vote.
Motion passes 5-1.
Thank you. Really appreciate you bringing that up for the discussion. Okay. So discussion direction on Boulder County IGA. I think we proceed as discussed in executive session. And same thing with Honeywell. Oh, great. Okay, trustee reports. Trustee Elson.
The EAB, their meeting is probably done by now. They're meeting tonight.
Mhm.
So I'm sure they're very excited that we're annexing the Martin parcel finally. More after I get the report from that meeting. The SFC, Mayor Rogan, you came and spoke with us at that for the city summit, the Americans, which was very good. After that, we had a really lengthy discussion for Tierra Resources about how that is going, that whole process. And I was curious though, because they must spend a lot of time making the report, and then they give it, and they also give it to the UAB.
Yeah, so I was going to talk about Tierra.
So how much does that take away from the money that's like, how much time are they spending preparing reports to give to groups and for the town? How much does that take away from our budget what we have?
Well, their scope of work wasn't hourly, if I remember correctly. It was by deliverable.
Okay.
So I think we should, unless I'm wrong about that. Yeah.
So
But that's
I was
a good
just curious,
question.
yeah,
Yeah.
because I mean, we don't need a report, we can just get, you know, the takeaways from the UAB, what the UAB gets, so, you know, to bring it down.
You sound like a consultant.
I know,
Yeah.
so, but anyway, I just thought, when they said they gave the report to multiple groups, I was wondering how much are we losing by doing that? That's all. Other than that, not much I can remember from the report. All my notes are on my iPad, which is in the shop, so let's see. Yeah, there's not much else. We had a big discussion about composting. It's always fun stuff. Sure. No, I think that's it. For highlights. They'll be excited about, I'm sure they, know about the limb pickup. So part of that. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, great, thank you. Trustee Henning.
Yeah, back to Tierra Resources. So they did meet with the UEB and they brought in the main gentleman, I forget his name, and then another guy that was doing the economic modeling. And there's some very interesting discussions. And if you are kind of a nerd and you're really into this, I would recommend, paying attention to these. But one of the big things that I didn't really realize they were going to be looking at as much as they are is what's called time of use rates. So we pay a flat rate here in Lyons. I don't know, what is it, Aaron? It's 14 cents what is it? What's our flat rate for electricity? It does, okay.
Yeah, sorry, I missed the number.
No worries.
$13. Increased to $13 with the base fee, or talking about base fee.
No, I was talking about our flat rate, our kilowatt hour.
12 cents is what.
It's 12
we
cents.
Charge, what we pay me, 4.7.
Sure. So yes, so we're flat fee, but this is really important. But as more people get electric cars and they start charging between 3 and 5 in the afternoon, they're going to start to change our equation. And a lot of other communities, because of electric vehicles, are going to what they call TOU, or time of use rates. That is, if you charge at 5 o'clock, it's going to be a lot more expensive than charging at midnight. And they did discuss other communities around Colorado that are going into time of use. I think they brought up Fort Collins, or was it Loveland?
Fort Collins.
Yeah, Fort Collins is going to time of use. So it feels like that's something that is imminent with the way the world is changing. I don't know if it's going to be next year or the year after, but it's something that we would need to understand because I imagine it would come to the board and there's a lot of social ramifications with it.
Excel is defaulting in time of use this year, just FYI, so
they're defaulting, or?
yeah, defaulting your rate class is residential in time of use.
Currently, you have a choice, right? Right up.
Right,
front.
currently you do, but
Yeah.
starting this year, once they finish their smart meter upgrades, they're going to default everybody in a time of use.
So we have to go to time of use then?
We don't.
that's
even-
not-
No, that's
Oh, really?
Excel and Excel.
That's
investment.
Excel. So that's what you're saying is it's
This is
It's
very
happening.
much something that's happening across the country with all utilities.
Yeah, so anyway, so I just thought there should probably be some public awareness to it, because people, how they consume now matters.
Yeah.
And people could see their bill go down, or they could see their bill go up a lot and not understand it unless they start to understand their behaviors. And it gets people to also understand, because they're talking about Phoenix, where they have time of use. And of course, it's hot between like noon and 5 or something. So they jam their air conditioners up until noon, and they all have them on a timer, and they turn them off. And then at 5 o'clock, they turn them back on again. And so they call it the Phoenix spike, where it looks like they said some, an animal with 2 big ears, right? And so people make a lot of adjustments in their lifestyle for time of use rates, and definitely companies. If you have commercial and like the market that has lots of freezers and stuff, they would probably alter how they consume electricity. So anyway, so I think it's really interesting, and I think it's going to be something that's the UEB is going to ask the board to start thinking about. At some point, I would get Jim Kerr back in here to talk about it because it was neat. All right, I'll stop.
Isn't that part of the benefits too of the meters going in, so you couldn't?
Yeah.
Yeah, because now we can do it. Yeah. So,
Thank you.
all right.
Yeah, good job. I actually don't have a lot to report because I did not attend the PCPC meeting since it was about the annexation of the parcel. And in my agenda setting meeting with them, their discussions from that I brought up during the executive session. So I really, from a PCBC standpoint, don't have much. And I think their next meeting is going to be on the zoning. So I won't be attending that one either. But they're moving forward. Things are moving along there nicely. I did attend the Pride Parade, and it was great. There was not any security issues. In fact, I was really pleased with, there were 3 officers that were helping deputies, I should say, that were helping with the march and the flow of traffic. And I thought people in cars were really respectful for having to pause and wait for this crowd to go through. And it was very well done, I think very well received and very respectful, which I greatly appreciated. And then in terms of the drag show at A Lodge, I think that Asa was way underprepared and yet so overly happy. The turnout was packed. There wasn't enough food. They didn't have enough people really to be serving those drinks in a timely manner. And he was out of his mind excited, and I think would love to host that every year for them. So it was a big success, and the performers were top notch, and the crowd really enjoyed it. So it was a great event, and yeah, so I was very proud of our community and the turnout. It was lovely.
Thank you.
Yeah, trustee Devon.
So the Parks and Rec Commission, they did not meet this month. So we'll have them work next month.
Okay. Trustee Williams.
Yes, it's nice that the museum has an event on Saturday, and Priscilla will be representing the town for that. And
great.
it's nice that
Yeah.
that's going to be possible. And so, and one thing I forgot to mention for 2 meetings ago is that our folks did a great job on working with the indigenous people to put together a different and new land use acknowledgement or land acknowledgement. And we need to get that to you so we can use that here. And I just, when we did it tonight, it's like, oh, can't believe we haven't done that. Because that was, I think that was in April, what we talked about that. And then I also wanted to I'm gonna talk about this at TED Saturday because I'm seeing memory. I'm gonna do better than this. Right. Saturday was amazing. It was amazing. I had to leave early because I was speaking in Fort Collins as well. I usually do 3 or 4 events during the night. I have one next week with the National Park Service, Eastern Division. What do you have 10% of your residents show up for something? What town has that? Yeah. Makes a difference. And then, because her mother won't do it, Grace Farrell worked her ass to make this thing an amazing success. What an utterly amazing young woman. It's been tremendous. It's been a tough year. 556 anti-trans bills introduced 78%. So it's great. That's it.
We're happy you do.
Thank you. I'm going to say nice things about our town on Saturdays. They come to town.
Oh.
Yeah. They said, as always, when you're in the very beginning, you're doing a stand-up routine. And so I am. I like funny things. A lot of funny things. But they said we need to turn it quick. Because we've got some really serious pieces going early in this year's And I said, oh, I know how to train. And I'm gonna train it like I'm talking.
Okay.
Okay, thank you for that. I am so sorry that I wasn't able to be at Pride. I was at home in Chicago taking care of a family matter. But I am so pleased it went great. I heard from Claire Levy that she was here and she had a ball.
Good.
So that's terrific and looking forward to next year. And another thank you to Director Mitchell and everybody who worked on the beautiful pride flag in front of the library, which is going to be, that's going to be its permanent location, it sounds like, and we'll be refreshing it every year instead of moving it around town. And thanks to Trustee Ellison's kids who helped.
Yeah, there's one.
I still have paint on my clothes from it. I was not prepared. So I don't have much to report additionally. I am not sure whether the LAHC met because that was at the time when the power was down. So I didn't go to the library because I figured they weren't meeting. And then I never heard from the chair. So and maybe Director Mitchell, do you know, did the LHC like meet outside the library or something that day? If you're there.
We did
meet.
Gil knows, Gil, yeah,
We did meet.
you did.
Yeah, it was light enough to meet inside the library with natural light and we didn't have regular.
Okay, well, I will get the update from you about that later. Thank you. There I go making assumptions again. Yeah, the LAHC, of course, like no electricity, of course, they're still gonna be.
Because they're that good.
Because they're that good. So I will be attending the CML conference along with Administrator Simonson on, I'll be going Monday and Tuesday next week. I'm not sure which days.
I'm going all three.
You're going all 3 days, great, because you weren't able to last year, so I'm glad that you're doing that. And then I know that some folks who live at 224 Seward are now educating themselves about what it takes to actually purchase and run their own mobile home park. There are a lot of resources available from the state and from the county for that. So they came to the HHS meeting. And I believe they were having another meeting tonight to talk about their next
And
steps.
planner Kim attended and said it was a wonderful meeting.
Wonderful.
Very, very effective meeting.
He attended tonight.
Yeah, it was at 7:15.
Great.
Last year went over there.
Oh, great. I'm really glad.
New ownership?
No, the current residents are talking about how they can buy it.
Oh, I
Which
like
is
that.
it's a state program. The state legislature, I think 4 or 6 years ago, put in protections for people who live in mobile home parks to make it easier. It's happened in several towns across the state. So I gave them some information about
Boulder
that.
County was supposed to have staff there tonight. So
Good.
It's happening in a lot of states too. This has become a big issue.
Yeah. So as we know, there are some underlying zoning issues with that property, you know, which is a bridge that we'll cross when we get there. But I think it's really a net positive for our community and I hope we can make it work with it. So that's all I have.
and if, before we, after legal update, if people don't mind, I'd love for Cassidy, she wanted to give a very brief financial update. And I would love her to do that, if you
Yeah.
still don't mind.
Not at all. In fact, let's do that now before legal update,
Okay.
if that's okay with everybody.
I don't have an
Okay.
update, so we can just skip all of them if you want.
Okay, so let's do that instead of legal update.
Okay, let me see if I can share my slides that were there. I'll try and make this as brief as I can because we kind of went over some of it before. Let's see here.
There's really one slide that we need to.
Yeah, and can everybody see this okay?
Yep.
Okay. So we already discussed about the sales tax being low, so I won't really go into that. Keep in mind though, this is only 4 months worth, so we still have a long ways to go. We could definitely still catch up, but we'll kind of just keep an eye on it. The local business has stayed about the same 55%. We usually see this spike up a little bit in the summer months, so I anticipate seeing more sales tax from local as well as our local retail sales tax. And that was another thing I should have mentioned, for marijuana is increasing to the 5%. And that happened in, I believe that took effect in May. So we will start to see some of that increase as well, which wasn't budgeted for. So that's another positive thing to look forward to. And this is just our monthly comparison with the other years. And here's our revenues to expenditures year to date. We're exceeding all funds except for the sewer fund, which was anticipated for multiple reasons. Debt service, when we have large debt service payments, that's one, but more importantly, the legal expenses, obviously are higher this year. Year-to-date revenues versus the budget projections, those are higher than the budget in all funds except for the electric fund. Aaron and I are kind of looking to see why that might be, if it's a consumption change versus the last 3-year average, because that's what we compare it to, is the monthly 3-year average. So we're continuing to look into that as well. But as I mentioned before, the general fund has, even though sales tax is lower, we are higher in some other revenue sources. So that's great. Expenses versus the budget projections, we are lower in all of the funds except for the sanitation fund, sewer fund. That's due to the expenses that I just mentioned regarding legal. And then this is really the slide that I wanted to show. These are still unaudited numbers, but if you remember when we built the 2023 budget, we give ourselves, here's our reserves, which are not unchanged. So those are the orange bar. That's what we're required to hold back. And then the fund balance is the green bar. So essentially the difference between the two is what we have available to spend or reappropriate in future budgets that's above the reserve requirements. So, and just so that you don't have to do the math, which I should have done for you, the fund balance in general fund is actually 365,000 over our reserve. So that's what we have remaining there. The electric fund is about 400,000, water and sewer fund 85,000, stormwater 97,000, and then the parks is 262,000. So another thing to keep in mind on some of these is, we did scrape some of these funds to help with project shortfalls last year. So, we have options to replenish some of that stuff. My recommendation is to not necessarily do anything with these right at the moment, unless an emergency or an urgent request were to come up, but to wait until we build the 2024 budget, look to see where our projections are at that point, and then prioritize these funds for one-time uses, capital, other consulting, grant fund uses. But it's probably best that unless we have an emergency, or something very urgent, that we kind of take a look at our other priorities and prioritize this as a whole. The other thing probably that I should mention is these fund balances are actually even after we take into account anything that rolled forward from 2022. So like the wildfire funds, solar, grant funded capital projects. And then they also take into account the additional appropriations that we have done in 2023 for grant matches, for example. We've done some personnel increases, and of course the legal expenses. So this is after all of that is taken into account. So that's really good. We've got some good fund balances going here that we can utilize in the upcoming budget season. That's all I have.
So our July 20th workshop instead of IGA will be devoted entirely to financials. So July 20th, we're anticipating a presentation at the workshop, presentation of the audit. Cassie wants to take a look at the budget amendments that we need to do to document all of the things she just said, the things we're carrying over and areas and those items. And then she'll be able to more formalize those numbers as audited numbers instead of unaudited. But especially general fund and parks are sitting quite well right now, barring no disasters. I do want to let you know that today, or no, not today, what day did that happen? Over the weekend, Ewald, the cul-de-sac at the end of Ewald erupted. And we are having a crew tomorrow. There's a section of the road that feels like a sponge. So we're concerned there could be a sinkhole. So if that is the case, we will have to spend some money we didn't plan on. So when I see numbers like this, I'm so thankful that we're doing well because things do come up that we just did not prepare. So I'll keep you posted on that, but July 20th will be a fun workshop of all things finance update. Okay.
Are there any questions for Director Eystone? Board? No. Thank you. Oh, sorry.
I just was gonna say, I really liked that last slide, and if that's something that we can continue to have. And whenever you present your financials on a monthly basis, I really appreciated that.
Yeah, sure. It won't change unless we make other budget amendments aside from this one that's coming up. So it would stay the same unless we were to make additional appropriations, but it is a good reminder to let you know what we do have as anticipated. And a side note, during budget development, I do have some suggestions on potential revenue. I know that that's one of the board's goals and priorities is to look at different revenue sources that might be able to help out the town. And I've discovered a couple that maybe are options for us. So that's good.
That's great. Oh, that's great. Yeah. Thank you. All right. Thank you so much. Sorry to keep you waiting. Okay. So there is no legal update, correct?
That's
Okay.
correct.
All right. Then summary of action items, please.
Okay, I've got a potential joint PCDC Board of Trustees meeting regarding the Boulder County IGA. Vandaloo Tavern license was approved. The board would like staff to try to gather baseline information on vandalism and graffiti in the parks. Ordinance 1147 was passed on second reading. Ordinance 1148 passed to second reading. They'd like to see a potential workshop with the UEB on water shares in our portfolio. Tomorrow at 6:30, there's a rededication of the Raul Vasquez stage. I am to send Trustee Daddy's HHSC report to the board. The board would like to review the Tierra Resources scope of work for deliverables.
Or hourly.
Or hourly.
I got that one right.
Potential public awareness on time of use for electricity. Don't know if we're going to workshop that. Updated land acknowledgement will be coming from the HPC, right? And then the last one, Trustee Mayor Pro Tem would like to see the fund balance slides for future finance reports.
I just have a couple of small things. We're going to forward Sawyer's request to Boulder County.
Thank you very much. I would really like to forward like
The
a
video.
timestamp of the video. Yeah,
Okay.
he was great.
I have that one and, that we need to work on a code amendment. We need to put it on the agenda to discuss a code amendment regarding cash in lieu being spent on whatever type of water shares we want versus only the
That's
type
really
that's
good.
ordered.
I don't think that's necessarily a code amendment because that's all in policy right now. And so I think if you need a workshop that issue generally, I think it sounds like.
I have that, I think, as a workshop.
Yeah, it's a little more complicated than just a code amendment, I think.
Great, that's all I had.
Brandon?
No, that's it. That's all I had. Thank you.
Okay. Well, then I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
I second.
Great.
And that motion passes unanimously.
Thanks, everyone. 9 o'clock. That's
Thank you, everyone, so much.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Have a good night.
Brandon.